Decoded.
Welcome back to Book Decoded, everybody. I'm so excited for our deep dive today
Me too.
into jerks at work, toxic coworkers, and what to do about them by Tessa West.
It's so relevant. I think everybody who's ever had a job
Oh, yeah.
have encountered at least one of these jerk types.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what's so great about this book. West doesn't just give you all these horror stories or vent about it.
Right.
He actually gives you this really cool taxonomy of jerk types. And then even more importantly, gets into the why.
Yeah.
Why these people are the way they are.
Mm-hmm. The psychology behind it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into this taxonomy. Like you said, there's 7.
Jerk types, yeah.
Okay. So we have kiss-up, kick-downers,
Yeah.
credit stealers, bulldozers, free riders, micromanagers, neglectful bosses,
Yeah.
and gaslighters.
Quite a list, isn't it?
I know. Just hearing these names is giving me flashbacks to some past jobs.
Oh, me too.
Okay, so let's start with maybe one of the most, recognizable ones.
Sure.
I feel like we've all experienced this. The kiss-up, kick-downer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
What's going on in their heads? What does Wes say about this type?
Well, she talks about this social comparison orientation.
Social comparison orientation.
It's a mouthful, right?
A little bit. What does that mean?
Basically, it means that these people are constantly comparing themselves to others and, trying to climb that social ladder.
Well,
They're very status aware, and they use that to their advantage.
so they're very strategic.
Oh, yeah, they know how to play the game.
It makes me think of the story of Dave in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was so charming initially.
Yeah, really good at social comparison.
Yeah, but then it all backfires.
He was so focused on, pleasing those above him
Right.
that he forgot to actually build genuine relationships with his peers.
And that lack of connection eventually led to his downfall.
Exactly. It's a classic case of, short-sighted strategy.
Yeah, it's like he was playing checkers and everybody else was playing chess.
That's a good way to put it.
You mentioned status a couple of times.
Mm.
Wes uses this term status acuity. I was wondering if you could remind me of what that is.
So status acuity is basically the ability to read and understand social hierarchies. It's like having a sixth sense for power dynamics.
Oh, I see. So Dave had very high status acuity.
Oh, he was a master at it.
He knew exactly how to work the system.
Exactly, but he just didn't think long term.
It reminds me of that saying about, you can get to the top of the ladder, but if it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about kiss-up, kick-downers. What about credit stealers?
Oh, those are another tricky type.
I know the story of Sandra and Jose.
Oh, yeah, that was a classic.
It was so frustrating because, Sandra was so good at making it seem like it was her idea all along.
Mm-hmm. They're masters of manipulation,
And it's so frustrating because sometimes, the people who are the best at their jobs aren't always the best at self-promotion.
Absolutely.
And so they become easy targets for these credit stealers.
And it's even worse when you have a boss who enables this behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Wes calls them the kickback bosses.
Kickback bosses, yeah. They get something out of it, so they turn a blind eye or even actively participate.
That's infuriating.
It is, yeah. It can be really demoralizing.
So how do you protect yourself from these credit stealers?
Yeah.
Especially if your boss is, part of the problem.
Well, Wes suggests building what she calls advice ties.
Advice ties, okay.
Yeah, these are connections with influential people who can vouch for your work.
Oh, like sponsors almost?
Yeah, kind of like that they can advocate for you and back up your contributions.
Oh, okay.
So if a credit stealer tries to, take credit, you have a network to support you.
I like that. I like that approach.
It's all about being strategic.
Yeah. Okay. So we've tackled the kiss-up, kick-downers and the credit stealers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to a type that I think a lot of us have encountered, the free rider.
Ah, yes, the master of delegation.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is that Wes points out that free riders actually thrive in teams that are highly conscientious and cohesive.
Right. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It totally does. Why would that be?
Well, think about it. Conscientious team members are often the ones who end up picking up the slack. They want the project to succeed.
They're the ones who care.
Exactly. And in cohesive teams, there's a reluctance to call out the free rider.
Especially if they're likable.
Yeah, exactly.
So the free rider is benefiting from the team's strengths.
Sadly, yeah, that's often the case.
Not fair at all.
What can you do about this?
One thing Wes suggests is to implement these fairness checks.
Fairness checks, what are those?
It's basically just a process where team members openly discuss, who's doing what and how the workload is distributed.
Okay.
It creates transparency.
It's like shining a light on the free rider's lack of contribution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it encourages everyone to, take ownership of their individual responsibilities.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep everyone accountable. Okay, so we've covered kiss-up kick-downers, credit stealers, free riders.
We've made some good progress.
We've got more to go.
We do. We still have 4 more to cover.
Okay, so we still have the bulldozer,
Yes.
the micromanager,
Yeah.
the neglectful boss, and the dreaded gaslighter.
It's going to be a wild ride.
I know. But we're going to give you all the tools and tactics to deal with them.
All right, let's talk about the bulldozer.
Oh, yes. The bulldozer, we were talking earlier, and you described them as like a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse, yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? What do you mean?
So, bulldozers, they're often like these seasoned, well-connected employees.
Okay.
So they seem like a real asset to the team, you know?
Right.
But once they're in, they start taking over. They hijack decisions, they push their own agenda, they just steamroll anyone who disagrees with them.
Oh, wow. So it's not just like they're loud and aggressive.
Well, they can be, but there's a more calculated strategy behind it.
Ah, I see. So they're kind of using their experience in their network.
Yeah, to make themselves seem indispensable.
Oh, wow.
Like Mike, the software developer in the book,
Yeah.
he created this crucial program, right?
Right.
So he became the go-to expert,
Okay.
but he used that leverage to control meetings and, silence dissenting opinions.
Oh, it's like he held the team hostage with his expertise.
Yeah, pretty much.
So how do you deal with somebody like Mike? Like, do you just give in?
Well, no, there's a couple things you can do.
Yeah.
Wes talks about in the moment, It's important to speak up early.
Okay.
Hold your ground. Don't let them establish dominance.
So assert yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also, echo the voices of others.
What do you mean?
Like if somebody raises a valid point and the bulldozer tries to dismiss it, you reiterate it, you emphasize its importance.
Okay, so it's like creating that united front.
Yeah, exactly. Showing them that they're not the only voice in the room.
All right, okay, what about like long-term strategies?
Well, you can talk to your boss about it,
Oh.
but focus on the facts.
Oh.
Not on your feelings.
Okay.
So document specific instances of their disruptive behavior and highlight the impact it's having on the team.
So like a clear, objective case.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you can also work with your team to establish clear rules and procedures
I see.
for meetings and decision making, to help prevent the bulldozer from hijacking the process in the first place.
It's like setting up those guardrails.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. Now let's get into those bosses.
The bosses. Oh, boy.
I know Wes identifies 3 jerk types.
Yeah.
We have the micromanager,
Mm-hmm.
the neglectful boss,
Yep.
and then the gaslighter.
The one we all dread.
Oh, the gaslighter. I know. Where should we start?
Let's start with the micromanager.
Okay.
The ones who just can't seem to let go of the reins.
Oh, yeah.
They hover over your every move.
They make you feel like you're under a microscope constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
What is their deal? Why are they like that?
Well, Wes' insights are really fascinating here
Okay.
because she says it often stems from a combination of things,
Okay.
like a lack of training, a fear of mistakes, a need for control, or even boredom.
Wait, boredom.
Boredom, yeah.
Really?
Sometimes micromanagers just don't have enough meaningful work to do.
Oh, wow.
So they create busy work for others and meddle in every detail.
To like justify their existence almost.
Yeah, basically.
So it's not always about being a control freak.
Not necessarily.
Could be like insecurity or just lack of fulfilling work.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's key to figuring out how to manage them,
Okay, so what do you do if you're stuck with a micromanager?
Well, Wes gives us some great strategies.
Lay it on me.
One approach is to try and understand their motivations.
Okay.
What are their fears? What triggers their need to control?
Okay.
And once you kind of grasp their psychology,
Yeah.
you can anticipate their behavior and adapt accordingly.
So it's like figuring out their operating system, and then you can kind of work within it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. Any other tactics?
Well, you can create clear boundaries around your work and your time.
Okay.
Set specific times for check-ins, define clear expectations for deliverables,
Oh, I see.
and stick to those agreements.
So it's like you're establishing this framework,
Yeah.
and it limits their opportunities to micromanage.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a great idea. Okay, what about the other end of the spectrum? The neglectful boss.
Oh, yeah, the ones who are perpetually MIA.
Yes, leaving you feeling lost and unsupported.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Wes explains that often they're not intentionally malicious.
Oh, really?
They might be overwhelmed or struggling with time management
Okay.
or just unaware of the impact of their absence.
So it's not always about, like, a lack of caring.
Right.
It could be incompetence or lack of self-awareness.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the strategies for dealing with them often involve helping them to become more aware and organized.
So instead of complaining about their lack of attention, you're trying to, like, coach them into being a better boss.
Yeah, kinda.
How do you do that without, like, overstepping boundaries?
Well, Wes recommends a tactic called need nudging.
Need nudging. I like the sound of that already. What is that?
It basically involves making small, specific requests for support,
Okay.
but within a reasonable time frame.
Oh, so instead of saying, like, you never give me any guidance,
Right.
you say, can we schedule a quick meeting next week to discuss my progress on this project?
Perfect example.
Oh, okay.
You're being proactive and assertive,
Right.
but not demanding or accusatory.
I like it. It's a subtle but effective way to kind of nudge them in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other tips for dealing with these neglectful bosses?
Well, you can also offer to help them manage their time more effectively.
How?
Like suggest setting up a shared calendar, prioritizing tasks, or even reminding them about upcoming deadlines.
It's like you're providing that structure and support.
Where they're lacking.
Where they're lacking. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Are you ready for the grand finale?
Oh, the gaslighter.
The gaslighter.
The boss that everyone dreads.
This one's a little bit more complex.
It is, yeah.
And potentially more damaging
Much more damaging.
than the other types.
Definitely.
These are the bosses who, like, distort reality, manipulate perceptions.
They make you question your own sanity.
Yeah, and they're often, like, so charming
They are
and charismatic
masters of deception.
that it makes it even harder to, like, recognize their toxic behavior.
Absolutely.
It's like they're playing the victim
Mm-hmm.
while making you feel like you're the problem.
Yeah, it's classic gaslighting.
And it's so sneaky because it makes you doubt your own experiences,
Right.
your own perceptions. It's so disorienting.
It can be very damaging.
Yeah, so how do you even know if you're dealing with a gaslighter?
Well, West outlines some key red flags.
Hit me with those red flags. I need to be prepared.
Okay, so if your boss constantly denies or contradicts your memories, if they isolate you from colleagues,
Okay.
if they make you feel like you're going crazy, or if they use subtle threats to control you.
Those are some serious red flags.
Yeah, they are.
That's scary that somebody in a position of power would use those tactics.
It is, and that's why it's so important to be aware of the signs and trust your gut, you know?
Yeah, if something feels wrong, it probably is.
Exactly.
Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting.
Absolutely not.
So if you find yourself in this situation, what can you do to protect yourself?
Well, one of the most important things is to document everything.
Okay.
Keep a detailed record of your interactions, you know,
Like dates, times, conversations.
everything and any evidence that contradicts their claims.
So that's just your paper trail.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another important step is to rebuild your social network.
Huh.
You know, gaslighters often try to isolate their victims,
Yeah.
so reach out to trusted colleagues, mentors, friends outside of work.
People who can give you that support and that reality check. Okay, but what if the gaslighting continues? What if it, like, escalates?
Well, in extreme cases, you might need to consider escalating the issue to HR
Oh,
or even seeking legal counsel.
Wow.
You know, gaslighting is a serious form of abuse.
Yeah.
You don't have to tolerate it.
This is getting kind of dark.
It is, but it's
Yeah.
important to talk about, you know?
Yeah.
West's book really shines a light on these issues.
Right, and it gives us the tools to navigate that.
Exactly. We all deserve to work in an environment that is safe, respectful, and supportive.
And if you're not getting that from your current workplace,
Yeah,
it might be time to look for a new one.
absolutely. Before we wrap up our discussion,
Yeah.
there's one more point I want to highlight.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's about recognizing that sometimes
Yeah.
we can all be the jerk.
Oh.
In the book, West talks about her own experience
Yeah,
working on this stressful office move.
right.
And guess what? She became the jerk.
Oh, yeah. I remember that story. She was so stressed out.
She was.
She ended up snapping at her colleagues.
And behaving in ways she later regretted.
Yeah.
And I think it's so relatable
Again,
because we've all had those moments where
Oh, yeah.
the pressure gets to us
absolutely.
and we act in ways that we're not proud of.
We're all human.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really crucial point that West makes.
Boy.
The need to address these behaviors at a systemic level.
So it's not just about fixing individual jerks.
Right.
It's about looking at the workplace culture, the power structures,
Yeah,
the organizational norms that might be contributing to these toxic behaviors.
exactly. If we want to create a truly jerk-free workplace,
Right.
we need to examine the systems that enable these behaviors.
It's not about blaming individuals.
Oh,
It's about creating a more positive and supportive environment.
exactly. And that's why I think this book is so valuable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it gives us the tools to deal with jerks,
Mm-hmm.
but it also challenges us to think about how to create a workplace where these behaviors are less likely to occur.
It's like shifting from a culture of tolerance
Mm-hmm.
to a culture of prevention.
Exactly. And that takes self-awareness, empathy,
Yeah.
and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
I love that. Okay, so to wrap up, if you're ready to ditch the drama, navigate those tricky personalities,
Mhm.
and create a more positive and productive work life,
Jerks at Work is a must-read.
it is. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Any final thought?
Well, as you delve into its pages,
Yeah.
remember to approach it with a blend of curiosity and self-reflection, because the first step to defeating the jerks at work is to make sure you're not one of them.
Ooh, that is a good point.
Right there.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential to be the jerk.
Yeah,
And understanding that can lead to more empathy and self-awareness.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into jerks at work.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy reading. And remember,
Don't be a jerk.